Louise. Hello. It is so awesome to be back on the show. So thank you for inviting me again. Yeah, as you know, I'm in Denmark, and sometimes here in the summertime, we go on a picnic. And what do you bring? You bring sandwiches, but you cannot do that when you're raw normally. And I thought, why not figure out how to make sandwiches? And my idea for the sandwiches came when another chef on the show brought out this Betty Bussy slicer, and I'm like, that's it. That's how you do it. And I just instantly had to have one. So today I'm going to show you how I'm going to make sandwiches with this thing here, but you can also use a regular mandolin, but they're, honestly speaking, just not going to be as big or as good, but you can do a smaller version of them. So at least you kind of try this technique. So like Larissa said, today it's raw sandwich wraps, and we're going to have an avocado spread, a pesto, and a sun-dried tomato spread. And it's a tall order. There's lots to do here, so I'm not going to talk too much. I'm just going to get right into it. You already have the ingredients list, so instead of showing you everything, it's too much, basically. I just hope you have everything in front of you. Tools wise, you're going to need a good knife, maybe a smaller one, a spoon, a peeler, one for juicing lemons, a grater, yeah, some toothpicks. I can show them here, some rounded ones preferably, those works the best. Yeah, those are the most important things, right? So I was thinking first we'll start off with making the various types of spread, and then I'm gonna show you how to make the wrapping, so to speak, and at the end we'll cut all the things for the layers and just assemble everything, right? And depending on how many slices you get, that will determine how many sandwiches you're gonna get. I'm aiming for 3 squares. That might be 6, but we'll see, maybe more, maybe less. It all depends on the zucchini. Basically, this is a hit and miss when it comes to zucchinis, because if they're too soft, it's not going to happen. And if they're perfect, you're gonna get amazing sandwiches. Okay, but I bought so many that I should have enough to demonstrate that some of them will work at least. So I'm thinking, why not just start with the pesto, because that's where I'm going to use the food processor, and it's kind of quick because you just throw everything in the food processor. So let's do that first. And for this recipe, I took some spinach. Oh, I can hold it here. Some spinach, put it in the freezer, and just freezed it and unfreezed it, defrosted it, whatever you call it in English. And so that just goes in the food processor there. And then you should have 35 grams of cashews, right? And put it in there as well. And next up, we'll do the pine nuts. So that's about a tablespoon of pine nuts in there. I hope those of you who are cooking along can keep up, or I hope you had measured it right away, because like I said, we have a lot to go through today. But add that to the food processor. Then we are gonna have a quarter of an avocado, and that is to make it all. Let's cut that one up, and hopefully it's a good one. That's always so interesting, whether they are decent or not. Oh, it'll work. It'll work. There, I'll just remove the bad bit there and take all of it. It's not ideal, but it'll work. There. I might need some more. I'm just going to take the other bit as well. A little bit more there. Oh, like that. It's all right. That should do it. Okay. And next up, we can do the arugula. So I rinsed this already, and I just wrote like a handful, and I guess this could be a handful, right? I'm not like very specific with my measurements because it doesn't matter that much. It's going to taste great anyway, but I really like arugula, so this is going to be a bit spicy. This pesto, and just add it there. And then we have some basil, and again a handful, so that would be like the top bunch or something. I need a scissor for that. And I washed everything beforehand, so good. They're nice and big chunk. Okay. Might as well throw that in there. And let's see, then we need some lemon. And half a lemon. I hope you can keep up. And I'm just gonna squeeze it into the food processor like that. Okay. And one of the things I like to do with my dishes is to add some things that gives the dish a little bit of a zing. And I don't know if you know what I mean by zing, but it's something that gives it a little pep or a special kind of taste. And like that could be lemon, for example, or the arugula, or any kind of onion or garlic or ginger or even chili. That all kind of gives it a little zing. And yeah, I want the dishes to taste of something, and that is my go-to things when it's raw. So that was the lemon. And then it says maybe some garlic. I'm gonna pass on the garlic, but if you want it, feel free to add it. Just remove the skin and put it in there, half a clove or however much you like. But no thank you to me. I just don't feel good afterwards, so I prefer not to have a hangover. And let's see, cashews, avocado, spinach, pine nuts, basil, arugula, lemon, and then some water. And because I want to see the consistency of it, I'm just going to add a little bit to start off with, and then start and stop, and then later see how it's going. So I start with one. And here. And this needs a bit of pushing it all down. So,
Louise, could you please repeat what's in your blender one more time?
Sure. 33 grams of cashews, a quarter of an avocado, a handful of spinach, 1 tablespoon of pine nuts, a handful of basil, about 8 grams, but it's not that important exactly how much. 1 handful of arugula, half a lemon, like the juice, 1 to 3 tablespoons of water, and I still don't know how many, and optionally half a clove of garlic. Yeah.
Such a beautiful ingredients. What a way to make pesto. Healthy pesto.
Yeah, well, I hope you like the taste of it as well. There, let's see. Looking good so far. Yeah, just a few more spins, I think with this, and no more water needed. It's got perfect consistency. So you just kind of try and see how much water it needs for you to get it like this, like slightly creamy, but without being watery. Okay, I think we have pesto in the house. Let's see. I'll put that over here. And for presentation, you could put it in a nice little bowl. Oh, well, that's just not bowl. But we are gonna put it inside the sandwiches in a little bit, so it's not gonna stay there very long. How do other people normally make pesto? Like, so have you ever tried to make it? Oh, she's not there. Or Doug, maybe you've tried it and have some other tips for how to make raw vegan pesto.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many pestos. It's hard to go wrong when you make a pesto.
Right.
My niece makes a phenomenal pesto, and it's really, really minimalistic. I always want lots of lemon in my pesto, and other people don't like lemon at all. So, you know, it's just hard to go wrong. You could have a pesto that's basil and cilantro, and you're almost done, other than a little bit of pine nut. Some people put avocado in, as you did. I like that very much. I think it's gosh, I mean, I think what you said was probably right as you could get. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
make pesto, just gonna love it. And,
okay.
And I think the difference in pestos is more about how much you process them. So some people process them down to pulp, and some people just down to a more powder, and they all work.
Yeah, I like a bit of chunkiness in mine. And yeah. Okay, let's move on to the sun-dried tomato spread. Okay. So what I did was I soaked, I think about 6 sun-dried tomatoes for, maybe 5 hours. So they're nice and soggy. And I'm just going to chop them up as the first thing. And I can kind of slice them on the long edge. So I basically just want as many tiny, tiny tomato bits as possible. And this is going to be very tomatoey. And like I always say, remember to turn your fingers in a little bit. I haven't been doing that, bad me. But just so you don't chop off your fingers, be very careful here. But sun-dried tomatoes are definitely one of the zing tastes as well that I like to use. And of course, when you soak them, you make sure to get a lot of the salt out. But I must say there might still be tiny bits in there. I don't know if you can remove it completely. So let's see. I'm just gonna chop that into tiny bits. I did sharpen my knife, but I probably could have done it even better. All right. But what you should end up with are just these tiny bits of sun-dried tomato. And I never know whether to call it tomato or tomato. I guess it depends on what country you're from, right? Okay. And next up, I'm gonna use some mushrooms. And I actually got a question from somebody saying, can you eat raw mushrooms? And well, I've always done it, never considering whether you could or not. But I would like to hear you, Doug. Is there any like reason why you shouldn't eat raw mushrooms, or yeah, is it okay, or what's your
Well,
opinion on that one?
it's interesting if you buy shiitake mushrooms by the case, as we often do for our retreats.
Uh-huh.
It says right on the box, "Do not eat raw."
Right.
It says so on the box, and I was at the Vienna Farmers Market last autumn, and they had 4 or 5 different kinds of mushrooms that I'd never seen before at one of the booths. And I asked if you could eat them raw, and everybody said no, 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 um, which piqued my curiosity immensely. I said, well, what would happen if you were to eat them raw? I mean, are they toxic? Or are they poisonous? Uh, and they go, oh, no, no, they're not toxic in any way. It's just that nobody ever eats them raw. So
Okay.
I tried to pursue that a little more, and I wasn't sure how much of it was a language barrier. Um, but eventually, when I finally got somebody with English that worked um, well enough for me to understand, they explained that, oh, of course you can eat all of the mushrooms on their table. You can eat them raw. It's just that most people have recipes that they like to use, you know, garlic and olive oil or butter and onions and things like that, and then fry up the mushrooms along with that mixture um, to make rushdi or some of the other um, traditional dishes from that area. So I ended up eating some of the mushrooms raw. In fact, we used one of them called a parasol mushroom on
Uh-huh.
one of the episodes of Let's Cook Raw. But even then, when we went to Wikipedia or something, read up about parasol mushrooms, and they said don't eat them raw. But it turns out that it's only the stems. They say don't eat the
Right.
stems raw because they contain something that can bother people. But the mushroom itself is perfectly fine to eat raw. It's like a lot of plants where you can eat the flower, but don't eat the leaves because it's a completely
Okay.
different. You know, I mean, you can eat the
I
tomato, but
read
don't eat the tomato plant. Uh,
I read that some, I think it's oyster hats, oyster mushrooms that are kind of, they're too bitter when they're raw.
well, there's lots of
Um,
mushrooms that are. It's an interesting thing. I asked a mushroom expert one time,
uh-huh.
can we eat the mushrooms that I see growing on wood? You know, because you'll see a lot of downed wood or old trees with mushrooms on them, and he said they come in 2 categories. There's the kind that you can eat raw, and the kind that you can eat, and the kind that you can't. But the kind
Right.
that
Yeah.
you can't because they're too tough. They're just hard as nails. And he said it's not because they'll harm you. You just can't eat them because you can't chew them. They're too tough.
Okay.
As opposed to the mushrooms that come up out of the ground, which are either toxic or not toxic. All of that is a
Yeah, we
preamble to
got to make
answering
sure
your
people don't go
question.
out and pick the toxic ones.
Yes. So as the preamble to answering your question, which is that technically mushrooms are fungi; they're not a plant, and the old concept of animal, vegetable, mineral doesn't really hold because there's also fungi and there's also other life forms that we don't, you know, they don't fall into the animal, vegetable, mineral categories.
Right.
So
Well, I better just
so the
jump in.
vegans typically eat mushrooms anyway, even though they're not plants, because they're not animals. And that's where the vegan concept comes from. So I certainly accept mushrooms. I don't agree that mushrooms have some supernatural powers that make them better than everything else.
Hmm.
Uh, and how you prepare your mushrooms is is critical to the enjoyment of the mushroom. So if you're making stuffed mushrooms, for instance, it's very nice to peel the mushrooms because the texture is much more enjoyable uh, without having that outside tough skin. What you're doing now, where you're crushing them with your hands a bit and texturizing them, this is hugely important We do the same thing with kale chips. Before we make kale chips, is you got to
Mhm.
crush them a bit to, and it just makes the texture more of what you want to prepare.
Okay, thank you so much, Doug. That was very interesting.
To give you a moment.
I better explain what I've been doing. So I took all the sun-dried tomatoes and chopped them up, and then I chopped half of the mushrooms because I actually realized these mushrooms were bigger than the ones I originally used for the recipe. And so I don't need as many. So sorry about that if you have really big mushrooms. And I just chopped up about two, maybe 2.5, and hand mixed it with the sun-dried tomatoes. And next up, we are going to use a quarter of a spring onion. So a whole one, a half one, and a quarter. And I took the top off, and I'm just going to chop it very finely. Maybe start on the long edge.
So Louise, you're not blending the tomato spread. You just
No.
chopping it. Okay.
From now on, no more food processing. From now on, it's all chopping and making tiny bits with a knife. So I hope you can see what I'm doing. And the onions, like I said, it also gives it that kind of zing. And we're gonna get to a herb, I would guess it is, very soon. That also gives it a bit of zing. And it's kind of my alternative to garlic. And let me introduce it to you in a second. Just gotta get these. I really prefer spring onions because they're not quite as strong as the white or red round onions, but it still gives them a little bit of an oniony zing. So let's add that. And this is more or less what's going to give the sandwiches their taste. Okay, and again, just massage it all really well together. And I hope you remember to wash your hands. There. Okay. Rinse my hands. And so that little thing I was talking about is something called ramsons. And I have it wild in my garden, and it looks like this. And they have a mild taste of garlic. And here in Denmark, you can also get it as like dried herb. So I'm going to use 1 or 2 freshes, or maybe 3 now that I picked it. Why not? It tastes so good. But if you don't have that, you could alternatively use the garlic chives, which should taste a little bit similar. But to be honest, I've never tried garlic chives, so I don't know.
Well, garlic chives are lovely.
Yeah.
Really
Do they
lovely.
taste a lot? Do they taste a lot of garlic, or?
Yes, very much.
Okay. So it's a brilliant alternative to using garlic if you don't like using that. But here, like, these ramsons, they grow wild in the forest. So I guess it's a very Scandinavian thing, maybe?
No, they grow everywhere here in England.
Okay.
They're everywhere. They're just out right now. They're just coming into flower now.
Awesome. They do remind you, or look like a bit like a plant that's really toxic. I don't know the English word for it. Liljekonvaller in Danish. So you got to be very careful to make sure you get the right one if you pick them in the forest. But yeah, they add a really nice flavor for sure. I can even smell it, like the garlicky smell here. And again, just massage it in. So that's all that goes in this sun-dried tomato spread. So 5 to 6 sun-dried tomatoes, 2 mushrooms this time. I wrote 4, but you see if it works for you. And then either 1 or 2 fresh ramsons, or a teaspoon of dried ramsons, or if you have some garlic chives, you can use those as well. So there, that's it. And I'm all covered in stuff now. Okay. Right. So 2 down, and we got 1 more to go, and then the slicing, the wrapping, and making the sandwiches themselves. So next up is the avocado spread. And for that, we need an avocado. And let's see if I think this one is better. Let's try this one. Yeah, it works. And you kind of do that one. Yeah. And well, this one is kind of the same technique. We're just gonna mix it all together. So I tend to like to just slice it up. Be very careful not to slice into your hand. You can use like a butter knife if that is more comfortable, so you don't break the skin. I just like make little dice like slices here diagonally or whatever, just like you would do if you had a mango and you want to make it really nice, and you kind of turn it inside out. I don't think if that technique works with an avocado, kind of. Maybe you never tried that. Oh well. And we need a bowl, and there is a bowl. So I'm just gonna put everything in there, and with a spoon, where did my spoon go? Oh, it went into this bit here. There. So take the whole avocado and get the little bits into the bowl. Fairly easy. And next up, you need 3 mushrooms. I know I'm going a bit mushroom crazy in this dish, but I guess once you bought a package, you might as well use all of them, right? But I like mushrooms in dishes because they're kind of giving it chunkiness, but still softness. And yeah, it's just nice texture, I guess, because as such, the flavor is not very strong. But there we have it. And mushrooms, and whether it's like shiitake mushrooms or brown mushrooms or white, it doesn't really matter. It's just whatever you like. And again, I'm just gonna chop them up in little bits and add it to the mix. And I guess you could make your own dressing. Like, it doesn't have to be these 3. You could make one with fresh tomatoes, or you could make a nut cheese kind of like dressing or spread. It's just whatever kind of thing you like, what you have around, and you just kind of make up your own, as long as it's not runny. It has to be a bit thick, like some paste you would normally put into a sandwich, right? I do like the brown ones. I don't know why. Somehow, maybe it's because they remind me of the cooked ones when they're brown. That could be it. Lots of chopping here, and I've got too many things on my chopping board. And yeah, it's really just your own imagination that puts the limit to what your sandwiches are going to be like. So whatever like vegetables you like, you can just put in there. I just try to add the ones that I would normally put in a sandwich when I ate them with bread back then, 12 years ago. So they kind of look like it. And that would be, of course, the stuff I have over here: cucumbers, tomatoes, lettuce, sprouts, that kind of thing. But we're going to get to that in a bit. Yeah. How are people doing out there? Is anybody cooking along today? Do you know?
I'm cooking along.
You're cooking. That's awesome.
A lot of people are cooking along. I'm
always cooking
looking
along.
through the audience, and I'm seeing a lot of people making food.
Yeah? Yeah. Awesome.
You want me to call out the names of all the people who aren't making food? No, I wouldn't do that.
Oh, yes.
But the beautiful thing is, You know, I mean, you're mentioning all the foods you're using, and again, it's mouth watering to watch. But
Awesome.
we have every advantage, right? I mean, I really feel sorry for cook food chefs who are trying to turn brown food into something delicious for our
Yeah.
eyes and yeah, okay, they can do things with smell, but so can we.
Mm,
And they can do a tiny bit with texture, but nowhere near as much as what we have in terms of texture to work with. But then we've just got so much color and so much more profound flavor that you've got every advantage working for you.
uh-huh. Yeah, it's really nice and fresh. Like it just looks so fresh. So next up, I'm gonna like take the chives, 8 to 10 of them, and just chop them up and throw them in there. And that's together with the lemon and the ginger is what's gonna give this spread a zing. I can't wait. I'm gonna eat all of it on my own after the show. So, I'm gonna be so full. There. Just add it to the mix. There. And then half a lemon. And you just squeeze the lemon juice in there as well. There. And luckily this one doesn't have any seeds in it. Always makes it easier. And all right. I just want everything in there. So last bit is some ginger, and this is kind of optional as well. If you don't like ginger, don't put it in if it's too strong for you. But I'm okay with it. So, and it looks like that. So I took a bit. I might not be using it all because I'm gonna grate it, and I can't grate all of it because I need a bit to hold on to. So I'm just gonna peel it and see how much is left and how much I can get in there. And like,
So we
if you
finally
get a
found a bit of produce that you peel.
yeah, actually the zucchinis are going to be peeled as well. So yeah,
Exactly.
Doug asked me if I peeled my mushrooms earlier, and no, I never do that because I'm not sure why, but apparently the texture is nicer when you peel them.
Yeah, because they have a
But
pretty
some
tough
cultures do.
skin.
Sorry?
They have mushrooms have a pretty tough skin.
Right.
It's noticeable if you peel them.
Right. Okay. I'll try one day. Never tried to peel it. It reminds me that you once said you tried to peel a grape, and
Yes.
Francesca, your daughter, she loved it.
Oh my
And
God.
from that day on, you had to peel grapes forever.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Well, I feel a bit like that with mushrooms. I think I'm too lazy. I'm just gonna go for the quick option. And
I don't always
just
peel my ginger.
oh, okay. I guess you could just use it with the yeah bit on the outside as well. So there, ginger in the bowl. I better distribute it nicely so it's not too spicy in one bit. So that was 1 avocado, 3 mushrooms, half a lemon, the juice from a lemon, 1 times 2 centimeters of ginger. Maybe it was only 1 times 1, and then 8 to 10 chives. And I'm just gonna do the massaging and get it all sticking together. And yeah, it's up to your own taste buds how much you want it to be a smooth cream or if you want the chunkiness in there, all up to you. I think this is good. Yep. And I think I'm just going to rinse my hands here. Right. Okay, we better get those sandwiches made, right? So I got all three here. And next up, we are going for the squash, the zucchinis. And this is where this beauty comes in. So it's called a veggie sheet slicer. And it works by lifting this bit up. And then there's a little button here on the side that kind of holds the bit up. And you have a end bit that holds the zucchini in place and a middle bit that you can take out. And then this thing protects the sharp blade here. There. So the thing is, we're first going to cut and peel the zucchinis, and they have to be the right size. So I'm just going to peel this one, and you could use it unpeeled. It just looks nicer that it's all white. And I try to find zucchinis that are not too big, not too small, and they're fairly straight and they're fairly firm. So I tried some zucchinis that had like gone a bit too old and the middle was kind of going soft. That didn't work. So you want them fairly fresh. Okay, I'm just going to take off some of the green just for the beauty of it. Oh. And I'm very excited to see if I can make it work while you're watching, because I have tried some that didn't work, and it basically depends on the produce whether it works or not. But hopefully this is good. So as you can see here, the bit needs to be this long. So I'm just gonna measure it roughly by eye. I think I'm gonna use this end. So I'll cut off the end and like that. It might be a bit too long. Let's see. Nope, it's perfect like that. And this is where I'm gonna, I'm putting this way, taking the middle bits and adding into the middle there, and the end bit comes in there, and you kind of just push it so that it sits well. And now I'll remove the protection and lower the blade, and this is the exciting moment. Will it work or won't it? So depending on the zucchini. So I'm going to give it a little gentle press, but not a lot. And let's see. I want one really long, beautiful slice here. Oh, and my hands are all wet. So let's see. I'm very focused right now. I'll be silent. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That is amazing, right? And I just kind of separate it. Look
An astonishing tool.
Yeah, this huge bit, like piece. We're gonna make some amazing wraps here. So actually I cheated a bit. I already made some just to be sure that I got some good ones, because sometimes you get slices like this, or sometimes they break off, or it's just not happening. But when you get a good zucchini, it works really well. So let me just put that here on my little plate. And these bits we're not going to use. Those of you who don't have this tool, you can just go for the mandolin, or even on a grater up there. There's a little edge where you can use it as well. And I must admit, it's not going to work as well, but it's possible to make tiny sandwiches. So I tried already earlier, and you just take your zucchini and you make your long slices And I'll make a few here so that those of you who are cooking along can do the same. Let's see. Got a few. That should be enough for at least one or two. Like that. And well, you get the idea with this slicer. And I know that it's on the website, right? Melissa, it's if anybody's interested in it, I think it's about 20% off on your website, right?
Yes, if you can go to letscookraw.com resources, you'll see the picture, you click the link, there is a note there about the discount, and I think it's will be till the end of the month. Well, the company is supporting us, give us additional discount of 20%. If you don't win it today.
Oh yeah, there's a draw. I'm gonna pick the lucky winner. That's so amazing. Somebody gets to win this one. Not this one, but one like it. Okay, well, let's get sandwich making, so to speak. And I need this platter. So now we're just gonna make the ingredients for inside the sandwiches. And if you're still making slices, please go ahead. You need maybe, let's see, at least 2 for each sandwich. But if they're really long, you can cut them in half, but wait with the cutting until you know how much you need. So we need some smaller bits of lettuce. Actually, I'm making a tiny bit bigger. That should still work. There. And we need some slices of tomato, just like you would with regular sandwiches, right? See if this one is any better. Nope, definitely not. Just put everything on a plate so that it's ready for decoration. And what I like about this dish is that you're getting so many different vegetables. Like it's literally all the minerals and vitamins in one big bunch, right? And it is kind of high fat with avocados and yeah, cashews and with the pine nuts. So to be honest, I didn't calculate the calories in this meal, but it is on the higher fat side. But just make sure you get enough calories in each meal. Maybe from fruit, preferably. Okay, so I'm just gonna slice up some mushrooms as well. And this is just the slices we need here, not the small bits. And we're gonna take some radish. Again, make slices. This is tricky. That's tiny. Radish kind of gives it a bit of a zing as well. It is a little bit spicy and yeah, it's nice in there. And I would put it in a regular sandwich as well. I don't know if you can see my beautiful platter here. That's coming well along. Like that. Cucumbers, slice it up. Oh. All right. And then I'm gonna add some sprouts in there. I think that's enough, right? I'm not gonna use everything, just, yeah, a little bit. But sprouts are just amazing. Like they're so decorative and they're super healthy and they taste great. So why not? So definitely some sprouts in there. And I actually also had these donated to me from a company called Tasty Coconut. So this is broccoli sprouts. I never tried them before and they taste really, really good. So I can highly recommend broccoli sprouts. That said, the company is Danish, so they only ship to Denmark and Sweden so far. So sorry for all you foreigners that is not Danish or Swedish. But I'm sure you can get them. You can even grow them in your own home. So I'm just gonna cut off some here. And there, that could work. And bell pepper. We're almost there. Again, just make some slices. You can chop them in half, depending on, like, if you're doing the mandolin size sandwiches, you want really small bits of everything because they're going to be tiny. But for the big ones I'm making, this should work. And then finally, an avocado. Oh, and a spring onion, of course. And again, you can choose to put whatever in here you want. It doesn't matter, whatever you like. And then I learned this neat little trick of cutting off the end like that, and a spoon. And you just kind of cut out everything like that. There. Okay. I would love to do more. Just slice it along, cut off the tip, and scoop it out. And now that I'm making all this compost, it's just going to go in my garden. So if you can, then definitely compost all these bits so that you're going to get beautiful garden soil. And I think we had some spring onions somewhere. Again, just some slices like that. And you can just throw them in your sandwiches as well. There, as much as you like. Okay, I think it's assembly time. And I can see that we're running a bit out of time, so I'm going to speed it up a bit. Oh, it's typical. But we can do it. We can do this. There. Okay, so here are, let's swap these around and put, let's see, that one, and that one. I hope you can see it. Yeah. So I'm just going to take the really long bit that I did before. And this is the exciting part, right? And I don't think I'll be using all of it, but we'll see. And I had this bit that was done earlier. And I kind of make a cross. So it's a T. And I'm going to fold it up like that. So now I'll start to just layer stuff here. Add some tomatoes and some lettuce, some cucumber, maybe some avocado, and a little bit of bell pepper. And then I want maybe a bit of, let's do the sun-dried tomato in that one. And I just kind of spread it out on top of everything like that. And let's see, I could do some of these sprouts like that. So it almost looks like a sandwich on its own like that with no top on it. And just take this bit, wrap it up around it, take the side, wrap it around like that. And I should have moved it a tiny bit to that bit. And oh, now I have a problem here because I don't know if you can see it, but it's breaking up. So I better remove that and move it a bit. That's Yeah, the trick of working with zucchini. So roll it over, and it needs to be a little bit tight. And if you have the these bits, you of course do it in way smaller scale. I'll show you in a bit. That's you wrap it around, and you take this bit here, wrap it around like that. Oh, that broke. And like that. And the zucchini decides how big it's going to be. Take some toothpicks, and you can either like do this, or you can just put it through. And I'm going to put it through because I'm going to cut it in two triangles. So like that, and like that. And then this bit is not going to work for cutting it. And you can put more in if you want, but basically you're gonna just cut it like that. And voila, you have your sandwich.